Thank you for coming. Very much. Thanks. My name is Peter Hiltunen. I'm the managing director at Kulturakademin. This is Sofia.
Yes, my name is Sofia Rasmussen. I'm the CEO of a research and consulting firm based in Stockholm, focusing on work-related issues and work values in different generations in the labor market. So I'll talk more later.
Yeah. Just a few words about Kulturakademin. We provide the creative and cultural industries with training, upskilling and reskilling. So kind of cover the whole creative industry. And of course the audiovisual industry, which is really important. And we also have produced some skills report. They are in Swedish here, but you can also download them in English on our webpage, but we haven't printed them. So, and I remind you also afterwards. And the report we have done so far, or we started 2021 to talk about what is the needs for the whole CCI sector and what kind of competencies will be needed in the future. So we started to make the first report, which came 22, which from the employer's perspective, and 23 was from employee perspective. So that was, and now we will do one for 24, tell you about that later, because we haven't started yet. And the whole aim is to be so relevant as possible, and also kind of predict what will happen in the future concerning skills and upskilling. Of course, you can't predict anything, but as you know now, AI, the new technique that is driving new competencies, you need to have new knowledge, both on the technical side, but also in the artistic side. So this is the kind of mission that we now aiming for, to at least a little bit predict not how the future will be, because that can't we say, but at least what competences are needed. And we also hope that one of the aim with the report is also to give you tools and to use in your organizations, or if you're a freelancer, how to use about self-learning, self-leadership and things like that. So they are also, at least we think, and we heard that they are very concrete. They give you good tools for your skilling and lifelong learning. And yeah, so we come back, and Sofia will take the floor and do about 20 minutes. Also, it's time for questions later, so don't worry. So there will be a few minutes before 1 o'clock, and when it starts in there for question and so on. So thank you.
Thank you, Peter. So I'll present these reports shortly. What we have done, we base these reports on extensive surveys, and we have looked at both global and Swedish surveys and research when it comes to lifelong learning, when it comes to labor market trends and the cultural sector. We have also carried out a series of in-depth interviews with experts, leaders, professionals and scientists within the performing arts, audiovisual media, music, visual arts and literature. So this is what we base the reports on. So what we wanted to do with the first report was actually to make a list with the most important future skills for professionals within the cultural and creative sectors. And we did so. So this is the list with 13 future skills, the most important ones, we believe. And they cover everything from the ability to constantly learn and relearn, the ability to collaborate, to, for example, copyright skills in the digital era, the art of collaborating with artificial intelligence, to also self-leadership for sustainable work life and the ability to master deep work. And I'm gonna dive into just a couple of these here today in detail, and then you can of course read about all the others if you find that interesting. So what we could see when we defined these future skills was that there are some really important driving forces behind the evolution of the need for these skills. And maybe the one that is the most important one of them all, I would say, is the increasingly creative and thought-intensive labor market. So today, your ability to think, to use your higher cognitive skills, such as creativity, such as understanding complex situation, complex decision-making, thinking, being creative. These are some of the most sought-after skills in the labor market as a whole today. And especially so in Sweden, actually, because Sweden is one of the top 3 countries in Europe when it comes to the highest share of thought-intensive jobs per capita in Europe. So we are either on first place or on second place behind Switzerland. So this means that not only have the creative sectors grown, but also that we can see more creative jobs, of course, in other sectors. So for the cultural sectors, it will be an increased competition for talent in the future, because you will compete with other sectors. So a person, for example, in the past who wanted to study at one of the traditional art schools to become a visual artist. Today, this person can use their skills in completely other sectors, such as, for example, communication, PR, gaming industry, etc. So this means that we have a different relationship also to work in general. In the labor market as a whole, because when your job is thought intensive, there are no given templates for how to carry out your job. It's very much up to the individual, him or herself, to understand what things to do, how to plan your time, how to evaluate the quality of the things that you have done. And also, it's harder in general to set boundaries and limits for your workday. Right? Because if you have a thought-intensive job or a creative job, your work will continue as internal processes, even if you've left the office for the day or the working place for the day. So this is why the skill of self-leadership has become so much more important in the labor market as a whole, but perhaps especially in the creative sectors. So let me start by presenting this skill as one of the 13 that I showed you recently. So self-leadership for a sustainable working life. So why is this a very important skill today? Well, the ability to identify your own long-term goals is one aspect of this skill. So you need to know what you want in the long term in order to take small steps in the right direction every single day. Also, to plan your time is an important aspect of this skill. There is an extensive literature about this aspect, but I'm not going to go into that now. Take responsibility for your own skills development is getting increasingly important, especially in the creative sectors where so many people are freelancers. No one else will take responsibility for this. And also the most important aspect of them all is deepening your self-awareness. As Plato said, know thyself. This is actually the cornerstone of self-leadership, to constantly work with how do I work best? What do I need in my surrounding environment in order to get in a state of flow? What do I need? What gives me energy? And what do I need to sustain long term? So this is also a part of self-leadership, identifying limits and maintaining work-life balance. Okay, and there's another skill in our list that has been written about extensively during the last decade and researched a lot. And it has been described like this: an endangered superpower that offers enormous benefits if mastered. Can you guess what skill this is? An endangered superpower. It's actually quite traditional skill. It's the skill to focus, to concentrate, and to master deep work. So here are 3 books that I've just chosen for you to recommend because they're really interesting. Deep Work, The Rules for Focused Success in a Distracted World. A global bestseller, Indistractable, How to Control Your Attention and Choose Your Life. And a Swedish book by a Swedish professor called Ostörd, The Art of Not Getting Disturbed. So why is this described as a superpower and endangered superpower? Well, it's a skill that is increasingly valuable in today's labor market, which is very thought intensive. You need that skill to dig deep, to understand complexity. But it's at the same time increasingly rare because we live in this very distracted reality today, and we have our digital tools that are designed to distract us. Okay. So the reason that we listed these different skills for tomorrow is not only for the individual to know how to be relevant in tomorrow's work life, it's also very relevant for organizations who want to attract talent tomorrow and to survive as an organization. So that was actually what the second report was more about, the organizational perspective on learning, how to create a learning environment. And why is this important? Well, partly because this quote says a lot. 10 years ago, people would have been overjoyed if you called and offered a job. Now you often get the answer, okay, interesting, I received 4 other offers yesterday, but I'll think about it. It puts higher demands on the employer to appear genuinely knowledgeable and honest and to be able to offer a good workplace. So this is the reason why this is very important, one of the reasons why. And we are not the only ones who suggest that a learning culture in the organization actually attracts talents. Research shows this over and over again. So what can you do as an organization then to create this dynamic approach to learning in your organization? We have 6 steps that I wanted to share with you. So the first one is to make continuous learning a core value in the organization. It has to come from the top. If it doesn't come from the top management as a promise that this will be a core value, it's not going to happen. It's not believable. Establish a long-term vision for learning in your organization. You need to know where you want to go, where you are headed with the learning in your organization. If you don't have that vision, it's very hard because you will be overwhelmed by the amount of information that hits you every day, so you cannot choose what to learn and what not to learn. Educate leadership on creating psychological safety. So if researchers are certain about one thing when it comes to cultural learning in an organization, it is this. You need psychological safety in order to create a learning space. So what is that? Well, researchers say that it's about having employees that are safe enough and feel free enough to, for example, ask questions without the risk of being labeled as incompetent or stupid, to employees who want to share ideas without knowing 100% that they are really great ideas. If you have that psychological safety together with high demands on employees, then you will create this learning space. If you only have a very high demands and challenging environment, but no psychological safety, you end up in what the researchers called the anxiety zone. And the opposite, if you have a lot of psychological safety but not a challenging culture, not demanding great things, then you end up in the comfy zone, which is not good for learning either. So you need both. Okay, incorporate learning into the calendar. It has to be concrete, and especially when it comes to leaders. If you have leaders who actually set aside time in their calendar for reflection, or for evaluating the feedback that they got, or for learning, then this will actually spread in the culture, of course. Ensure that insights and lessons are shared and preserved in a structured manner. This is really important for the cultural sector because cultural sector rely heavily on the ad hoc learning, like the spontaneous learning. Everyone says we've learned so much from each other in the projects, and that's true, of course we do, but it's not enough. If you take into account how the surrounding world is changing and the pace in which it's changing, we need to structure the learning in the organization. And finally, ensure that everyone involved in a project also participates in its evaluation. And also very important for the cultural sector because it's very project-based, and you rely a lot on freelancers in these projects, and then when the project is over, everyone disappears, and the organization misses such a great opportunity for learning if we don't evaluate and take into account what the freelancers, what everyone thought we could do better next time. So, another art of learning for the cultural organizations is this, the art of broadening the skills base. It's natural, isn't it? If you have a diverse group, you will have a more diverse learning as well. You will have a broader learning. And you will also be more relevant for the entire audience because the audience is diverse. So how do you get there? Well, for example, you need to seek competences in completely new areas than you're used to. Perhaps you can, when you're going to recruit someone, don't base the requirements on what the person who had the role before had. It doesn't need to be the same. Maybe look in completely different industries, for example. Invest in apprenticeship programs, mentorship, and other internal training. And this is a trend that is really clear in the whole labor market for many organizations who find it difficult to find and attract and recruit the right talent. They look for people who have the right attitude, who have the right education, and then they offer them internal training instead. And finally, invest in inclusive leadership with thorough knowledge about how to lead diverse groups. So it's one thing to actually recruit diversity, but another thing to lead diversity. It is often harder to lead diverse teams compared to teams where everyone are the same, but the benefits can be enormous if you succeed. So this is a skill that we need to learn. So I'm just gonna, before I give the word back to Peter, I'm also gonna present a little bit about the young generation of today. What do they want from their working life and from the organizations that they start in? So this is actually based on a survey that has been carried out for 9 years now. Altogether, there are 15,000 respondents in the age group of 15 to 29-year-old in Sweden that have participated in this survey. It's a good geographical spread in Sweden, so we cover everything from small cities to big cities, and it's an annual survey. So, if there's one thing I've seen during the last decade when it comes to the values among the young in Sweden, it's this. There is a great longing among the young for stability, more stability in life and more sustainability. And it's true for all different areas of life. So for the working life, of course, I'm going to go into that just in a minute, but also for the well-being of the soul, not getting too stressed in life, having work-life balance and all of that. Also when it comes to the digital life, many young people want today to have a more balance between the digital and the physical life. And also, of course, when it comes to the planet and the climate. So let me start with the working life. If you had the opportunity to choose between different employers, what would be most important to you when choosing where you want to work? So this is a question that we have asked young people for the last 9 years, every year. And I would just like to show the top 5 aspects of what is most important for young when choosing where to work. And the number 1 aspect is high salary. Okay, so this is actually quite interesting because it's the first year ever in Ungdomsfokus history that high salary is number 1. It's always been this one that has been number 1. Nice colleagues and a positive work environment. So I don't think we should see the fact that high salary is number 1 as proof that young people are chasing luxury or status. No, they're chasing economic stability in a very uncertain time where many people, young people have seen their parents suffering economically from the pandemic, from the inflation, etc. This is really true. For uncertain times, people tend to care more about stability, economic stability. Work-life balance, this is really important to young people and has become increasingly important during the last decade. Personal development, having the opportunity to grow every day as a person in your working life, also an aspect that has climbed in this list for many, many years and become more important, and flexible working hours. This is the entire list in Swedish, but just to give an example, in the 90s, young people were very attracted by traveling a lot in work and working abroad, for example, but this is now in the bottom. It's not as attractive for young people. So I said that work-life balance is important, but it's not only that. There is a widespread concern, a worry among young people today about being stressed. Even before they enter the labor market, many people are worried about, I'm going to burn out. On the direct question to young people if they find it important to choose a profession or an employer that does not cause too much stress, well, 7 out of 10 answer yes. But it doesn't mean that they don't have ambitions. Oh, no. They do have ambitions. And 8 out of 10 young people today are interested or have it as a clear goal in their career to become a leader themselves. But actually only 50% of the young people who are in the labor market find that someone in the workplace support them in their ambition to become a leader, which says something about the potential we have as organizations to support young people with ambitions. So the final result from this survey that I wanted to share with you was how young people answer the question, what profession is your dream job? So do you want to guess? What do you think 15 to 29-year-olds today in Sweden answer to that question? They can write what they want. It's an open question. Any guesses? Influencer, good guess. But so wrong, because no one writes influencer actually. But everyone, all adults believe that influencer is the dream job. No, actually it is. The most common word is self-employed or being an entrepreneur, having your own business. Maybe some of the influencers who want to become influencers write this, but I think it's not many people who dream about that. But it can be a bit misleading if we only look at the word that is the biggest word. Because if we look at the top 10 list in a whole here, all the other jobs are completely different jobs when it comes to the form of employment that is offered, for example. So we can see police officer, doctor, manager, veterinary, psychologist, nurse, zookeeper, animal keeper, engineer, economist. These are jobs that are mainly in the welfare sector that really can offer long-term employment, security, stability, etc. So if we look at that group as a whole that want to have that stability and safety and employment safety, well, that group is much, much, much bigger than the ones who write entrepreneur. So some key takeaways when it comes to attracting tomorrow's talents. We need to foster a creative organizational culture that stimulates proactive and continuous learning, maybe the most important aspect of them all. I think we need to invest in the leadership that stimulates employees' self-leadership. Integrate and communicate a genuine commitment to sustainability, both for the individual work-life balance and, of course, for the climate, which is a big concern among young people as well. Building conditions for deep work and deep focus in the actual workplace. And a sense of belonging, security, and work-life balance are important aspects for many of the employees of the future. There is a great interest in leadership, but the conditions for that must be right. You have to combine that with being able to have a work-life balance, then it is attractive. Thank you so much. Peter, please take the stage. Thank you.
Well, the next report, as you see, will be about talent management, talent development, and we are now in the process to find the right people to interview and make the deep interviews with them, and we will release it in somewhere in August after the summer. So we actually have two different talent programs now. One is the skills report, and then also we will do a pre-study how we can create some kind of national talent program as they have in Norway, Talent Norge. So we're looking into that and see if we can. So Sia Edström, who actually is the head of TV Drama Vision here, she will be the one who will do the pre-study and see how we can organize this kind of program. So a lot of talent this year. So I give you a few minutes we have. So if there is any question, let us take them now.
Yes.
Silja.
Do you have an impression whether creative industries and trying to establish a career as a creative talent, do you have any impressions of whether the creative industries is becoming less attractive to young people seeking security, for instance, and being and building a career as an artist or as a creative talent in charge of your career? Is that more attractive to young people now, or is it more demanding? And what can we as an industry do about the structures in case that it doesn't seem appealing to young people?
Thank you. I can start. Yeah, but just with the dream job question, for example, if we compare the answers among young with the 90s in Sweden, the biggest dream job was to work in media in the 90s, or to work in TV as a presenter or a host. No one writes that now. It's more about stability. So of course, that tells me at least that it is a challenge for many sectors within the creative industries, because stability is not the main number one thing that you can offer. But there will always be the group that is passionate about working in culture. So we need to perhaps work on how to attract that group even more and to offer something that relates to stability in some way. And there are different tools for doing that, I believe. What do you say?
Yeah, I talked a couple of weeks ago with the managing director at Dramaten, which is the Royal Theatre in Stockholm. He told me that, for example, that 10 years ago there was a queue of volunteers who just wanted to come in and work for free, just to come in. Now there's no one who want to do that anymore. Just for an example, and I think also to create to be an attractive employer in the audiovisual industry, that's a challenge, or in the whole CCI industry, since it's so much freelance based now and getting more and more freelance based. It will be a challenge, really, to attract young people to the creative industries.
But I think the 6 points that we made before about creating a learning, dynamic attitude towards learning in an organization, that's one step in the right direction. Because that is attractive for people, to know that I enter now a workplace where they are interested in my development and the fact that I can grow as a person here. It's very attractive for young people. So to work even more with that, I think, is a good step.
And it's also a challenge to, as you know, you go from project to project, and yeah, let's say a production company. How to train the people? Of course, you train them in process, in the situation where you're producing something, but the lifelong learning, that's a challenge to create that. And I mean, that's why we also look into the national program and what can we do in that, because that's the way to find all the freelancers, to also give them more training.
Yeah, another question here.
Yes, have you seen that the choice of a dream job has had an effect on how young people apply for education? Because in Denmark, where I come from, all the welfare educations are not attractive. They struggle to attract people to be nurses and help us in the welfare system.
Yeah,
so I think it's
see.
sort of contradictory in a way, that you need that stability, but at least it's not that attractive when it comes to doing the actual job. Yeah,
I see what you mean. Thank you. It's the same in Sweden. But my answer is both yes and no. For example, police officer is number 2 on the dream job list, and there are problems with that education today, and many who start it are dropouts because it's not what they thought it would be. So of course, dream job, what young people dream about is one thing. But then if there is a good training all over the country, it's another thing. And if people actually like it when they start working there or change careers, it's a completely another thing. So you're completely correct there.
And we will also look into that in the pre-study to see. And what we know now, we have talked a little bit with people from the music industry, and the training and education up to university level, if you want to be a composer or a director or whatever. They say in Sweden that it's a lower level of the applicant now comparing for 10 years ago. They are not so skilled, and that is maybe the whole education system in Sweden that is not working so well anymore, or what is it? We will not look into the whole thing, but we will look into that and also see, because how to foster talent, and when are you a talent? When do you start to be a talent, and do you never end to be a talent? Probably not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, hi. You said that the cultural industry is now going to be more focused on freelance work, or that it's opening up for being more freelance-based. And the top one for the dream job was entrepreneur and freelancer. So is there still someone to be working in the media industry, but the young people are also understanding that that includes being your own freelancer or having your own company?
Well, actually, the fact that entrepreneurs and having your own company is number 1. As I said, it can be a bit misleading with these lists, because you think like everyone wants to be an entrepreneur, but the big pile of people, the big group, they want the security in different kinds of jobs. So that's what we see. But of course, I think maybe you're better to answer that question, but are young people prepared for the freelance life when they get the education within the cultural? Both yes and no. My experience is that people are a bit shocked when they actually finish their studies and goes into the working life, because they're so left alone. And it's a big challenge. But what do you say?
Yeah, it is a big challenge, as I said before also, that what kind of conditions does the cultural industry or the audiovisual industry giving for the people? And I'm not sure at the moment that what we offer are so good comparing to other professions at the moment. So I think there is a lot of things to do, actually.
So this is the last question. Yes.
I hope it's relevant then. I coach since 8 years other creatives because I've been having my own company for 20 years as a creative. And I coach exactly these things, but I only know one more in Sweden who do this. So why are there no people doing this? And how can you be a part of creating some kind of, I don't know, pool, school, whatever, for people to simply help creatives to be sustainable over their careers?
Yeah, and that is what the pre-study will look into, how we can create a national organization like they have in Norway. Because, is it 8?
We have a full-time coach employed, and we have a pool of coaches that is offered through the talent.
Yeah, so we're looking into that. Yeah. So the thing is, we could start that now. We just only miss 10 million kronor or something to start with. That's the issue now. I mean, we have the will to start it, but now we also have to finance it, and that is actually one of the things we did pre-study to look at the structure, how to finance this kind of organization. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
So
Thank
thank
you
you
so
for
much
coming.
for listening.